Hi again. I've been doing some videos on the various anxiety disorders, and today I'd like to talk a bit about obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, on the surface of it, OCD can seem pretty unusual to a lot of people. Like, why would you check a door 5 times in order to see whether it's locked? Like, why would you need all your pencils lined up in order of length, right? Why would you count backwards by sevens every time you see the color green? It doesn't make sense. But in reality, those OCD-ish traits aren't so rare at all. They're extremely common, but they're also very diverse. A person with full-on OCD will have certain manifestations of it, but not others. Some people check things a lot, other people clean things a lot. Some people order things, some do mainly mental rituals. And if you look at the full range of OCD symptoms, most people, probably including you, have at least a few glimmers of it. Now, maybe that's something you already know about yourself. And maybe that's caused you to wonder if maybe you really have OCD. Well, that's not up for me to say. You'd have to see a trained professional who would ask you a lot of questions related to each of the various diagnostic criteria associated with OCD. And even if you genuinely have a lot of symptoms, you may not meet the threshold we consider true obsessive compulsive disorder. Though in a way, even that threshold is a bit artificial. All of the anxiety disorders fall on a continuum. Most of us have at least some symptoms of some or all of them. And some people are just more intense than others, At some point, we draw a line in the sand and say, okay, right, if it's worse than that, we're calling it a disorder. But it doesn't make all that much difference whether a person is 1 inch on this side or 1 inch on the other side. In the case of OCD, one general idea that many people have in mind, just as a general rule, is does dealing with it take up more than about an hour a day? If so, good enough, we'll call it OCD. If not, subclinical. Now, trust me, it's a bit more involved than that. But frankly, not by much. This ain't rocket science, Okay, so that's a long intro because this is the first of a set of 2 videos defining obsessions and compulsions. And we're taking them in order, so this one is on obsessions. A lot of people take those 2 words as essentially synonyms. Same thing. But no, they are completely different, and you are about to learn why. An obsession is an intrusive thought or idea that arises without intention and tends to produce anxiety. Now, sometimes it just pops into your head. Sometimes it's triggered by a situation like leaving the house or cleaning up the kitchen after making a meal, or sometimes it's triggered by an external stimulus like seeing a certain color or a certain number or a certain name. But you don't plan on having it. You don't think, okay, let's have an obsession now, right? And these triggered ones tend to be somewhat reliable. If you get an obsessive thought triggered by leaving for work in the morning, it's probably going to happen on a lot of mornings, maybe all of them, not just randomly now and then. And that's because these thoughts often begin to get tied to certain triggers. It's very much like Pavlov's dogs. They salivated when they heard the bell. We see the color green, or we leave for work, and that, in effect, reminds us of the obsessive thought. These thoughts tend to increase our level of anxiety, but they also appear more frequently in response to higher levels of anxiety. So if you're under a lot of stress in your life and you're prone to obsessive thoughts anyway, you're probably going to have more of them, right? If you're on vacation, everything's going well, you're totally relaxed, they fade a bit. But they seldom go away completely without doing some work on them. Now, I'm dividing this talk about obsessions and compulsions into two videos, which is a bit awkward, as you'll see, because obsessions and compulsions are usually tied together. The obsession makes us anxious, and the compulsion is designed to reduce that anxiety. It's like a headache and Advil. The obsession is the headache that makes us feel worse, and the compulsion is the Advil that makes us feel better, at least in the short run. The compulsion is the off switch for the obsession. But here, I just want to review some common obsessions or intrusive thoughts. Now let's start with the common ones that everybody thinks about when they think about OCD. I'm leaving home and I need to make sure the door is locked because someone is going to break in otherwise. Now that's not too strange, is it? You probably have something like it yourself, right? Remember to lock the door. But for a person with OCD, it's a little stickier, and it can be harder to get the real conviction, that feeling that the door is actually locked. You can guess that this is where those really elaborate door locking compulsions actually get started. Okay, also, I'm headed to bed, so the place needs to be locked up more securely. Maybe somebody will come in the windows. And here you can get some kind of illogical ones, because even windows that are pretty obviously too small for anyone to fit through, they'll trigger the thought. Or the place will burn down while I'm gone or while I'm in bed. There'll be an electrical fire from all of these devices I've got plugged in. Or I've left the stove on, or I've left the iron plugged in. Or maybe I've left something in a place where someone else will be injured. You know, they'll trip over it maybe. Or I've left something where the dog will eat it and choke to death. Or I've just driven over a pothole. But was it really a pothole? Or did I hit a pedestrian back there? Even though I saw that pothole coming, I know it was a pothole. But was it? Common obsession. There are germs on the kitchen counter. I was making chicken and maybe some chicken juice is going to infect someone. Or maybe there are germs in other places. Toilet seats, light switches, doorknobs, pillows. COVID has really ramped this up in a lot of people. Then there's a whole category about personal impulse control. I'm going to do something that I do not want to do and would be disastrous if I did. So let's say I'm holding a baby and I have a flash that maybe I'm going to throw the baby down the stairs. Now remember that I'm saying that intrusive thoughts are normal. A study listing them demonstrated that virtually all human beings have had at least some of these. And when I ask groups of people, more than half of parents have had weird thoughts like this. I'm going to throw the baby somehow, or I'm holding a knife. Actually, I've got a knife. Okay, so I'm holding a knife, and it suddenly occurs to me, I'm going to stab somebody with it. Like I'm holding the baby and I'm trying to butter toast. What if or I'm going to stab a family member or the dog. A lot of people don't like having the dog in the kitchen while they're chopping vegetables in case they turn around and stab the dog. Now notice, it's not that the dog will accidentally get in the way. It's that I will reach out and stab the dog. Not going to happen, but there's a fear that it might. Or I'm in the theater or a church and I'm going to stand up and just start yelling, even though I don't want to. OCD also shares a bit of a border with some phobias. Height phobia, for example. An enormous number of people with fear of heights are not actually afraid that they're going to fall. They're afraid they're going to jump, even though they're not suicidal. Life seems to be going pretty well. So it's not that they're going to indulge a real desire. There is no desire to jump. They'll just do it. Similarly, I'm driving and I'll turn the wheel and I'll crash into that barrier or into oncoming traffic. Most people have had that thought at least at some point, especially when they're learning to drive and realizing just how much power is in their hands. Then there's a whole series of what we might think of as bad thoughts that aren't about impulse control. Religious people, for example, often have intrusive, sacrilegious thoughts. Jesus has sex with Mary, that kind of thing. And they wonder, my gosh, am I secretly a non-believer or something? Well, the answer is almost certainly no. You only have sacrilegious thoughts about a religion that you are a part of and value. Buddhists never have intrusive obsessions about Christianity, right? Christians don't have them about Ganesh, right? If anything, these thoughts suggest that your faith actually is important to you, not that it's not. Other bad thoughts. Images of people you love suffering or being injured or having an illness. And these might just pop into your head, making you feel you have to do something to stop that thought, because maybe somehow having that thought will make it come true. And here's one that's almost entirely limited to heterosexual men. Maybe I'm secretly gay. Maybe I've been kidding myself the whole time and I'm actually not straight. Look, there's an attractive guy walking down the street. How do I know he's attractive? Am I getting aroused? I might be. Am I? Now, obviously people do realize things about their sexuality or their gender identity at unexpected times in their lives. So we can't automatically write this off as OCD. And it's tempting for progressive therapists to get all weird about it. Well, that wouldn't be so awful, would it, you homophobe? But actually, your sexuality is a pretty big part of you, and it can mean all kinds of things, like your marriage. So it doesn't surprise me that it happens or that it worries people. But I've seen a lot of men with this kind of worry. And yeah, sure, sometimes he's realizing that his sexual range is a little wider than he thought. But very frequently, I do a very careful interview and it becomes really apparent that this is just an obsessive intrusion. Listen, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but it looks like you're straight. There's nothing we can do. You're just going to have to live with it. Sometimes it's more of an intrusive emotion, like usually anxiety, rather than a thought. Like you get triggered by stepping on a sidewalk crack or doing something awkwardly that just doesn't feel right. Like maybe you brushed your left hand teeth first, but usually you brush the right ones first. Or you get a feeling from seeing a certain color or number or shape. Now, there's no real thought associated with it. Oh, the color green means somebody is going to die. No, none of that. It's just an uneasy feeling. And even with all the others that I've discussed, when there is a thought, they tend to come with that uneasy, wrong feeling as well. And it's uncomfortable. It's like having your shoes on the wrong feet. You want to get rid of that feeling. But how? That is where the compulsions come from. And I'll talk about those in the next video.